Welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in the series Freemasonry and Satanism, number 67, part 1. It's September 2nd, 2015, and I'm here in North Carolina in the mountains, a place I moved to a while back because I guess you could say I'm a prepper. I thought to myself, I do not want to be in the big city. Any big city. New York, Orlando, Florida, LA, Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, DC, Chicago. I just felt, from what I know from my research, that if the manure hit the fan, it just wouldn't be a good place to be. For resources, millions of people, you got to worry about water, sewer, food, safety, chaos and anarchy. This series is Freemasonry and Satanism. This is number 67. I've got hundreds of hours and a couple hundred books in the last 10 plus years that I have read and studied. Videos, magazines, we've gone over them, and press releases by the thousands that I have read and made comments to on the internet and received reply comments from other people. So I got a bird's eye view of the whole thing. And because it's September 2nd, and they say September this month, the final fall could come to the world. Armageddon, World War III, crashing the dollar, martial law, asteroid hitting the planet, some kind of plague, some kind of treaty, like the treaty with the Eastern Pacific Alliance Treaty, whatever it's called, and where they destroy more of the United States economy and jobs, what a lot of people say. But specifically, what might be in that treaty, which China has wanted for a long time, is a clause that says they have to disarm the USA citizens. In other words, the US government agrees in the treaty to disarm its own citizens. And the Pope is supposed to come to the United States this month. First, I think he's going to meet with President Obama, speak before the United Nations, speak to us, the people. And a lot of people are speculating it could be a big announcement. A required one world order. Because everything is unsustainable, which is all a fabricated situation, planned. And you might say, Rick, it couldn't be all planned. Well, then I have a surprise for you. The next book is going to show that it was all planned. World War I was planned. World War II were planned. Korean War, Vietnam War, the war between the states. Albert Pike wrote the letter to his friend Massini, however you spell it, or say it, in Italy, in 1880 thereabouts, that 3 world wars would be required to bring about the New World Order. A lot of people know that. And the letter was in the museum on display in London. And then, of course, you have H.G. Wells, and I went over his book, The Open Conspiracy, in 1923, tells a lot. And many other books that I've gone over if you've been watching my videos. Everything from remote viewing to this New Age goddess worship religion, Luciferic religion, where all these people, including Gene Roddenberry, of Star Trek and a lot of the other Hollywood people, are into the occult, and we're going into meditative states, communicating with the other side to get storylines for Star Trek, in Gene Roddenberry's case. They say that Madonna would do that, the Hollywood star. And when she would go into a trance, she would come out as that flamboyant, bubbly female, and then when she was done performing, she would go into a very depressed state of consciousness. You know, were these people getting possessed? Are these people getting possessed? What does the New Age, occultic, satanic, Luciferic religion have to do with UFOs? What's it have to do with the New World Order, the New Age? And you know me, I could babble on, so let's get on with the story here. So, many years ago, in a library in Texas, somebody discovered a book called The Library of the University of Texas, the Abraham Schneider Collection of Hebraic and Judaic, presented by the Kabbalah of the Texas Rabbis. So this was on the front inside cover of a book called the Jewish Utopia. This is very important. The Jewish Utopia. There's the inside cover. So you can go look this stuff up, of course. Which I want people to look this stuff up and not believe me. But I ran across this and it kind of blew me away. I think here's another picture of the book. The Jewish Utopia. I have to look around the corner there, make sure I got it square for you. By Michael Higger, Ph.D., the Lord Baltimore Press, Baltimore, Maryland, 1932. Now consider the date, 1932. World War I was over, of course, and we were 8 years from starting World War II. I think the League of Nations was formed after World War I, and part of the Balfour Agreement during World War I, Rothschilds, the leader of the Illuminati, they say, made a deal with Lord Balfour of London, England, that if the Rothschilds used their money and got President Wilson to get the USA to go into the war, trick the people, during World War I, then London, England, would make it happen that the Palestinians' land in the Middle East would be given to the Rothschilds to create the state of Israel, to bring about prophecy, rebuilding of the King Solomon's temple. And part of that prophecy is taking over the world. So they discovered this book. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the back of the book. Maybe the page, I want to start on something on the back of the book. Because we're so close to potentially the end. We don't have time, maybe, for me to start at the beginning of this book to get the message to you in my videos, whoever will watch them. So first, before I start reading, let me tell you a little bit about this situation. So there was a gentleman who found this book and read this book, who was Robert H. Williams. And he wrote The Ultimate World Order, as you can see. So he found the book, or discovered the book. I'm not sure if he was the one who found it. Probably not. But he reviewed it, the Jewish Utopia, and he wrote his own book about that book. And he copied a lot of the pages in his book and went by them paragraph by paragraph. So it might behoove us to listen to Robert H. Williams on this Jewish written publication, the Jewish Utopia, in 1932. And Williams published, the publication of this book was 1957. So 25 years later, after the Jewish Utopia was published, I don't know how far back from when it was found. So you know the story. There was the book, a Jewish book that tells all, the Jewish Utopia. The name says it all. And then we have this man, Robert H. Williams, who read it and said, oh my God, and wrote a book, The Ultimate World Order. And I printed a copy free online, The Jewish Utopia. So this is a recent discovery of mine, and I have been researching it, reading it for the last week. And again, I said, oh my God, I gotta get this as the next video. So before I start reading a few pages, I'm going to talk about the author. Communist attack author. Now, why would the communist attack author? And why do most people giggle right now if you mention communism or New World Order? When now, even the Pope is probably coming to say the New World Order must be established for sustainable reasons, and talk about global warming, which is proved to be a hoax, but also that the Secretary of the United Nations said that it wasn't a real situation, but they were using it to destroy capitalism. If you've been watching my videos, you know all this. So what I'm going to do is, all this is going to gel together on this video, a lot of it, and future videos. So, Robert H. Williams, a native of West Texas, I'll read a little bit, son of a Baptist minister, is a lecturer and news analyst and authority on subversive movements. He is a contributor to the Encyclopedia Britannica, 10 eventful years, author of several booklets on communism, Zionism, and Americanism, and is a publisher of a monthly newsletter, the Williams Intelligence Summary. In 1942, the author, as S2 head of the Intelligence Staff Section for Basic or Replacement Training Center Number 4 of the then Army Air Forces at Miami Beach, Florida, organized, trained, and directed one of the largest counterintelligence investigative staffs in the American Air Force. Later, he became executive officer for the Intelligence and Public Relations Section, headquartered Miami Beach Schools, commanded by Brigadier General Ralph H. Wooten, with the title of Intelligence Officer. I'm not going to read all this now, but I'm going to give you an idea who Robert H. Williams is. So here we're at the highlighted portion. I read the top. I'm going to read the highlighted portion now. Just giving this, tell you who this guy is that's going to be telling us what I'm going to tell you next. About his discovery of researching the book, The Jewish Utopia, he published in 1932, after World War I and before World War II. Timing is important. Unable to deny the author's carefully documented charges of subversive activities, the Communists and the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith circulated stories that Williams is not and never was a member of the military intelligence or military intelligence reserve. When you see what he wrote, you will see why the Anti-Defamation League and B'nai B'rith went after him. When he became over age in grade, real warm out here. I need some water. Hot day in September in the mountains of North Carolina. Nice place to be in these very interesting times. When he became over age and grade and applied for a 1-year extension in the active reserve, the Anti-Defamation League put intense pressure on G-2 at Washington. So I guess G-2 would be some kind of command like the CIA or FBI in Washington. At Washington to drop him. But after a 4-month investigation of Manor Williams and his publications, his file was marked no adverse information, and G2 granted his requested extension. As the coveted classification of counterintelligence specialist. When President Truman designated Miss Anna M. Rosenberg as Assistant Secretary of Defense in charge of personnel, and apparently she was an insider communist. A lot of these people that were in high places, presidents, like we already know, are puppets for the you don't know what to call it, but the Zionist, communist, Illuminati, and Jesuits, and Satanists, and Luciferic, and United Nations, with all their symbolism, Freemasonic lodges, Rosicrucians, Council of Foreign Relations, Bohemian Grove, Bilderberger Group, Club of Rome. As you know, I could sit here for half an hour and name the groups that are planning and vying for this new world order, new age, and they want a huge population reduction. And apparently, I'm always making discoveries. One of their goals or concerns, it's hard to figure out which word exactly to use for what I'm about to say, is the degradation of the human race. They think that by interbreeding white people with dark-skinned people, blacker-skinned people, that they've degraded the human race so they're no greater than animals. And so they want to wipe them out and create a new race of beautiful people, tall, blonde, beautiful people, as you will read in this material. You will hear me read. And we know that Hitler was into the superior race. So nothing new here, because the same people that I mentioned doing the New World Order, New Age now, are the people who put Hitler in place. And there's a book called Who Financed Hitler by the Pools, and many other books that I've gone over. So all this, as I've been saying all along, is connected and been done by the same forces that have been in charge of the world for hundreds of years. But now with a more intelligent, aware population, and more people, and the countries are becoming more civilized, the people who are controlling the world have to counterattack. And one, get rid of a lot of people. That's too many for them to manage and feed. Not that there's too many to feed, but there's more than they want to feed. Or supply with energy or housing. Putting footprints on their beaches. Hunting in their forest. As the kings of Europe would have had somebody thrown in a dungeon for, or probably killed. I keep saying the new age is basically a return of the old age. And I'm not the only one who says that. So anyways, when he became of age, over age and grade, he applied for an extension, but they tried to go after him. But they, in a 4-month investigation, says Manor Williams, that's his publication company, and his publications, his file was marked no adverse information, and G2 granted his request extension. in the coveted classification of counterintelligence specialist. When President Truman designated Miss Anna M. Rosenberg, an insider communist, Zionist, as Assistant Secretary of Defense, in charge of personnel. And look what Obama did and Bush. All these people in charge of Homeland Security were dual Israeli United States citizens, and almost certainly the New World Order Zionist Jewish folks. So nothing's changed since Obama to Truman and before. Remember, they planned World War I and planned World War II. And all this effort was to create, strengthen, and build up Israel, and that's why 9/11, now Israel is gaining much more territory, and people all over the Middle East are fleeing to countries everywhere from the north, the west, the east, the south, causing huge problems for those countries, where there's already unemployment problems, and you got swarms of Arabs leaving Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Tunisia, all those countries that have been attacked, Yemen. And it's all planned. I keep saying that. And in this material, you're going to see that, yes, indeed, it is all planned, was all planned. And they're right on schedule. So when President Truman designated Miss Anna Rosenberg as Assistant Secretary of Defense in charge of personnel, giving her almost absolute power to fill key positions with revolutionaries. So she's a revolutionary, Zionist, communist. And Williams, the guy who wrote this material, published a factual, documented expose of Mrs. Rosenberg's red record, communism, on the day of December 21, 1950. Wow, the government always does these things on December 21 date, the days before Christmas, which is also the winter solstice, a witchcraft holiday, by the way. Federal Reserve was created on December 21 by Senator Hyde and a bunch of cohorts in conspiracy with President Wilson at Jekyll Island. If that doesn't spook you out. 1950, the Senate confirmed Miss Rosenberg's appointment. Williams was discharged without his notice. This military intelligence officer was discharged. As soon as this communist, red Zionist Miss Rosenberg was appointed by President Truman, Williams was discharged. Remember, he wrote an expose on all her history. Later, high-ranking officer at the Adjutant General's Department told Williams that the Jewish revolutionary, the late David K. Niles, one of Truman's aides. See what I'm saying? The presidents are controlled. And like Kennedy, if they don't do what they're told, they're assassinated. Had ordered the discharge via Mrs. Rosenberg. Presumably, it was her first official act. The discharge was honorable. No charges ever were filed against Mr. Williams. It was issued under paragraph 6A 11 SR 140-175-1, a paragraph under which an officer can be discharged honorably without so much as notifying him. The only answer Congressman John Phillips ever was able to get from the George C. Marshall Anna Rosenberg Department of Defense as to why the author was discharged was that wide publicity given to certain statements contained in his booklet, Know Your Enemy. I hope I haven't worn you out by now, just getting you to understand what and whom we're talking about. Anyways, here's a copy of his general discharge of the Army of the United States, December 1950. And a couple letters he includes in here. Letter of commendation. It is my desire to commend you on your performance of duty as a member of the Winged Intelligence Section. Thomas Power, Brigadier General, USA Commanding. I certify that Robert H. Williams, 0-901911, as a captain. Herb Proctor, colonel, retired. And General Order Number 1, Incendio Training Center for Miami Beach, Florida, December 14, 1942. That was during World War II, 1942. Intelligence Officer Captain Robert H. Williams. Alright, so now we know what happened. Somebody discovered this book called The Jewish Utopia in a Texas library, published in 1932. Robert Williams, H. Williams, wrote the book The Ultimate World Order upon his investigation of the book and apparently all his knowledge as an intelligence officer. And I'm going to start at page 61 of his book, and I'll make 3 videos on this book. So I'm doing the 3rd part first because it's that urgent in my opinion. Knowledge is power, so we need to empower ourselves. Alright, we shall begin. Who will win? Page 61 on this book. You can see how much I highlighted. I highlighted a lot of material in this book. It's that important. Who will win? According to the utopian plan, the anti-God communist forces will have to be destroyed. So the Jewish Zionist people have a plan called the utopian plan, and the anti-God communist forces will have to be destroyed. So the communist forces are a tool of the Zionist Jewish folks. They created the communists. Nothing more than a tool. And when the game is over, they will have to be killed. But in the meantime, it's the communists that have to do the military and policing of we the people, which they have been doing all along. Killing people, subversion, spying, changing our whole society. But according to the utopian plan, the anti-God communist forces will have to be destroyed after they have served their purpose. This is Robert Williams. For the Zionists want all the world to worship a God, their God. They who have made communism so monstrous evidently expect to be our St. George, and the more monstrous the dragon, the more glory to the Zionist knight in armor who cuts off its many heads, saving mankind, or such as remains of mankind. Socialism, socialist governmental monopoly power, will not be one of the dragon's heads to be cut off, but anti-religion will be. So the socialist and social governmental monopoly power, such as we have in place right now, will not be one of the dragon heads to be cut off, but anti-religion will be. It would surely seem that America is to be on the righteous side, since our policies, like Britain's, support Zionism, while the communists shadow box Zionism, which is all a charade. The Zionism, utopian Jewish people control the communists, control Russia, control Europe, control the United States. As Prime Minister of Israel Sharon said in a heated argument, don't worry about the United States, we control the United States. The world planners are opportunists, and now they are building Red China into a massive war machine with know-how and equipment largely from the Soviet Union. Remember, this document here is 50 years old. It is my guess that the master strategists plan to hurl Red China against both the USA and the USSR, thus one more forcing us into a wartime marriage with a communist country. In a desperate atomic struggle, no man would dare criticize our ally. Now remember, this is 1957 that Robert Williams wrote his book after World War II. 10 years after. And the Cold War was going on, and everything has progressed along since then, as we all know. A lot of people know now the Cold War was a big conspiracy to give all the warmongers and corporations and military equipment and keep all the people at bay and in line. In a desperate atomic struggle, no man would dare criticize our ally, Soviet communism or Jewish Zionism, or our own government heads. We would quickly merge into a coalition, communist-type dictatorship, with the Soviet Union, a world government, all but unrighteous China. But to be on the side of the righteous, we must embrace the Zionist God with law and justice, administered from Jerusalem. The atomic war with anti-God China might well take care of all who oppose such developments. You know, in today's reality where we have, I guess, EMP, nuclear explosions 300 miles in the sky, can take out the entire electricity of a country. And then they would expect right afterwards lots of people would die. You know, water, no electricity, millions of people in the city, chaos and anarchy, even cannibalism, robbery, theft, murder, rape. So they could do this to China, they could do this to the USA. And a lot of people, if you go on YouTube and look at videos, this is what's being prophesized right now. That's why I thought this book review was so important. In such an alignment, the USSR might be reformed from its anti-God position and induced to accept the God in Jerusalem. The world would be socialist, and there would be no further debate about socialism or communism, but only mention of pro-God and anti-God, pro-Jewish and anti-Jewish camps, the righteous versus the unrighteous. So the unrighteous will need to be disposed of, killed, and that would be anti-God people and anti-Jewish camp people. They would be unrighteous. The role of any particular nation, as of now, must necessarily be a matter of conjecture on our part, but the above plan would satisfy the utopian requirements. So he read the Jewish Utopia, and with his knowledge, he's writing this book, The Ultimate World Order. For several years, we have been hearing the question, will Israel be neutral in the next war? If not, if not, which side will she join? And you notice in the news now where we hear about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Syria, Iran, you hardly ever hear about Israel. But as, again, I remind everybody, as Prime Minister Sharon said of Israel in a heated argument, when you get in an argument, you usually spit out the truth. Don't worry about the United States, we control the United States. But a lot of people already know this. The political action committees in the United States, the most powerful ones are the Jewish ones. Israel controls everything. Politicians, money, Federal Reserve, corporations, most of them all over the world. These people are serious about their goal of a new world order. And this is all biblical, too. And if you don't bend a knee to their God, as George Bush would said, pledge allegiance to the United Nations. But this is going to be even deeper than that. You have to pledge allegiance to this descendant of King David when they rebuild King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, this God of theirs. And If you're not Jewish, you don't own property. You will be a slave. And they think you're going to be happy that way, so that you do anything to escape all the chaos and anarchy they're going to cause in the near coming future. So it seems. Possibly this December. If you go on YouTube and watch the videos with the Shemitah year and all the other threats, an incoming comet or asteroids, and threats of World War III, China's stock market crashing. You know me, I could go on here with examples for quite a while. Threats, threats, threats. This might be the month, so they say. All the prophecies and peoples and the videos on YouTube. Jade Helm going on across the United States, dispersing troops and equipment. Everything is in place. This is not conjecture, this is a fact. And apparently Russia is doing a Jade Helm thing, getting everything in place right now. What do they know that we don't know about September this month? Or maybe next month. I don't know, but they say September. So it says here, will Israel be neutral in the next war? And then I was going on about that. With all this stuff going on, you notice Israel's not in the news. But they're controlling everything, as Prime Minister Sharon said. They don't want to be in the news. They don't want it known that they're controlling everything. They always keep themselves behind the scenes, like the Freemasons and the Illuminati that I've gone over. First, it is obvious that Israel would jeopardize the position of some 2/3 of the Jews of the world if she sides with the communists against us. For those 2/3 reside in America. Second, if the Zionists did not get some of the Israelis slaughtered in the war and did not maneuver to have Israel sacked and perhaps burned or atomatized, nuclear bomb, they would lose the trump card which has drawn so many crocodile tears from us stupid Anglo-Saxons and got so many of our sons killed on Jewish mapped battlefields. Israel will have to take part on the side of the West, or rather, fighting beside those Western nations who are to be duped and used and deceived, lied to. Finally, Mr. Higger himself says Israel is to participate. Remember, Mr. PhD Higger is the one who wrote the Jewish Utopia, published in 1932. Israel and other righteous nations will combat the combined joined forces of the wicked, unrighteous nations. So anybody who's anti-God is unrighteous, and anybody who is anti-Jewish is unrighteous, according to Mr. Higger in his book, The Jewish Utopia, as exposed by the Ultimate World Order by Robert Williams. From Professor Higger's book, it seems that our own country and allies, no doubt Britain and France, are to be among the righteous. And when they say our countries are going to be among the righteous, that doesn't mean you or I will be allowed to live, as you will see. This is splendid news, the first news of victory, even before the war starts. But are we to be victorious? Not in the sense that any of us or our children or grandchildren can profit by victory. For it is Zion that is to conquer all, or such is the plan. Assembled for an attack upon the righteous nations in Palestine. This is biblical stuff too, if you know anything about the Bible and Revelations and prophecy. But anyways, in Mr. Higger's book, The Jewish Utopia, assembled for an attack upon the righteous nations in Palestine near Jerusalem, the unrighteous will suffer a crushing defeat, and Zion will thenceforth remain the center of the kingdom of God. In the next world holocaust, there may well be no victor, not even Israel. This is Mr. Williams. Certainly if they succeed, you and I as defenders, and you can tell which is Mr. Williams and which is Mr. Higger, because it has different style in the writing, italics. So there'll be no victor in the next world holocaust, not even Israel. Certainly if they succeed, you and I as defenders of American traditions and individual freedom will be on the liquidation list. We need not even expose Zionist activities to get into the Jewish Black Book. The Jewish Black Book. And there's a little star asterisk here. And down at the bottom there's an explanation what the Jewish Black Book is. The Jewish Black Book Committee was listed as a communist front in the 1947 California Un-American Activities Committee report. Its national head was the late communist friend Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein was the head of the Black Book Committee. The Black Book is apparently a list of Americans who dare to defend their country and its traditions. So Albert Einstein, part of the guy who helped build the nuclear bomb, is apparently not a nice guy. And I've noticed that too in all my research. All these people they make out to be great, famous people, like those who win rewrite history the way they want it to be. But all these people they put up here, like Albert Einstein, usually wind up upon my research not being very good characters at all. Horrible characters, evil characters. Just saying, it is what it is. So, liquidation list. And I suppose today, in 2015, they got those computers. And I did discover something today that was kind of crazy. An ex-national security person, which I have the document, I'm going to print it out, says they're killing people right now by metadata. You know what metadata is. If you have a website and you have some keywords like your company name and your name, and somebody searches the computer, the keywords Rick Miracle Truth Seeker, and then my website or videos has Rick Miracle Truth Seeker, and then the computer finds it because that's metadata. Well, they say they're killing people now on metadata. So it's not even the CIA or the people involved. They can just push a button now, and the computer starts little blinking lights and everything. You know how computers run. And, you know, whether they have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and all the way to level 10, you know, maybe the greatest level of all. But it searches metadata. And right now it may be just looking for people at the low level who they deem as a serious threat to exposing the New World Order or national security. But as they move further along on their plan, they can move to level 2, level 3, level 4. And the metadata can expand to include, say, people who know what I know. You watched this video. You made a phone call. You said the words New World Order, stocking up on supplies. You wouldn't surrender your guns. You wouldn't take a vaccination. You wouldn't support the communists. You wouldn't support Israel, Jerusalem. You're a Christian. You would never stop being a Christian. Metadata. And if they push a button, let's say they get to level 7, and they have people already across the country, Jade Helm, I don't know, we're sending out all these murderers who get maybe $500 a hit for everybody on the metadata target list, or drones, or even computers and cell phones with frequencies. I don't know. But it was, and I'll show you the document. You can look it up yourself. But this high-level person said that they do kill people using metadata. That's how they determine who gets killed. Very impersonal. So the Jewish Black Books, I'm just saying, this is a very high-tech version of the Jewish Black Book. All we have to do is defend our race, our traditions, our religions, our freedom. Get it? Got it? Mr. Higger made it that clear in the Zionist attack, vilify and ridicule all Americans who become prominent in the fight for Americanism. Oh my God, that would be me. And many others. And people who are waking up. On Alex Jones, they said waking up. People across the country are waking up en masse. So they're getting themselves on the metadata hit list to be rounded up into FEMA camps. Killed. Guillotined. Because remember, they can cut off the credit cards, ATM machines, banks, EMP poles, take out electricity. Who knows what they're going to do, which seems that they are going to do something. How will they and their righteous agents, the liberals, manage to suppress or liquidate such opponents in this country? And with the technology they have today, we all know how they could do it. With all the custom plagues and sky spring and HARP systems. Heck, they could take out a whole city with the HARP system. Everybody would start tingling and burning up from being microwaved. Just like that. From my research. And they got these great big Canon lasers. And these microwave transmitters on trucks on the top like a dish. Crowd control. They got the tools. They've been working on it with our tax dollars behind the scenes. We've gone over that in my videos. I'm sitting outside here. Bugs now and then jump on me. Or so it feels like. Many ways may be quickly developed under the hysteria of war, an atomic war. One way already is clear, and for this machinery already is set up and ready. Remember, this is 1957 that Robert Williams was writing this, about a book he discovered in a Texas library, obscure book, The Jewish Utopia by Mr. Higgins. Alright, one way already is clear, and for this machinery already is set up and ready. And again, I'm reminded, this is 1957. Think about what he says right here. It is the Federal Civil Defense Administration, a Jewish invention. Jewish invention is also communism and revolutions, and the New Age. We will need civil defense and lots of it if war strikes. And remember, they've been sending all kinds of heavy-duty military equipment to our police departments with all kinds of very interesting outfits and helmets and batons and, according to Ron Paul, bayonets and hollow point bullets. And you've pretty much got to be brain dead to not have known this. It's that common now. A lot of police departments have tried to resist having this equipment shipped to them. Of course, those police chiefs usually wind up out of their job and somebody else put in there. So we will need civil defense and lots of it if war strikes. But no possible combination of political appointees could conduct efficient emergency operations in case of bombing, fires, and general hysteria. The only force capable of coping with such an emergency is the local police in their own cities. They are familiar with their respective cities and the local environments and terrain and seasoned for handling people under excitement. And I say right now, without even a doubt, militias, local patriotic militias, as per the Constitution, should this manure hit the fan, is what we need across this country. Townspeople need to get together, hopefully joined by your police departments, but I'm not so sure you can trust them to run the show. People in power have had a lot of time to gain control. As we already all know in the news, plenty of military leaders have been let go because they wouldn't say yes to the question, will you fire on American people if ordered to do so? So they have been preparing, and they probably know who they can trust and who they can't trust. So I'm saying local militias, in my opinion, is the key. Every town, every city is the local citizens getting together, not going downtown and rioting. Heck no. Go meet outside of the city at somebody's houses and form a militia. Everywhere from coast to coast, from north to south. And I give this advice to the people in Europe. We, the people, outnumber them hundreds, thousands to one. That's their fear. That's why they're doing all this preparation. My opinion. The only way on earth to have efficient civil defense in a war emergency is to have responsibility where it already exists, under the American form of government, with the local city governments and the people themselves, according to this intelligence officer, Robert Williams. He's saying what I'm saying. 1957. Let the police chief handpick, train, equip, organize a citizens' auxiliary, and you will have a genuine civil defense. The police chief and major naturally will work out plans for cooperating with the county law enforcement authorities and the counties with adjoining counties, and all will work with the armed forces to save their own lives and children. The authority must remain at home. How to capture Americans. James Forrester, the Patriot Secretary of Defense, worked out exactly such a plan, and in the fall of 1948 asked police chiefs and sheriffs throughout the country to organize such auxiliaries. Get my words right, auxiliaries. Forrester was also at that time trying to keep Truman from building up the state of Israel. See, he was a puppet. In the strategic and oil-laden Middle East, the Marxist propaganda machine, headed by the Jewish smear agent William Witchall and the Anti-Defamation League mouthpiece Drew Pearson, went into action against Forrestal. Rarely in our history has such furious and lying attack been centered on any public official. By December 1948, I predicted in an article, as any observer could have predicted, that Forrester would soon be driven out of office. He was out by March, and as the reader doubtless recalls, was hounded to near insanity and either jumped out or was thrown out of the window at a naval hospital, where he had been virtually incommunicado, denied even the right to see a priest. And I've gone into this before with Mr. Forrester, but he was involved with also the UFO issue, and there was some very seriously underhanded activities, and one Jewish Zionist New World Order folk was in a limousine with him and pretty much told him that he was going to be done in. The conspiracy goes deep. The surest sign that the inventors of the federal, as opposed to local, civil defense machine, remember this is 1957, imagine how far they've come now, we're not concerned with providing genuine civil defense to save lives, families, and cities, but to preserve the local order of the things is seen in the nature of the organization they induced the president to set up. We can all see that's true now with the FEMA camps. There's a whole system in place to liquidate the people. You get into a FEMA camp, you never come out. And you're going to be hungry and starving, and you're going to get on the bus and be so happy to go to the FEMA camp. You're going to be happy going to your demise. A federal bureau of political appointees to run in the entire civil defense from coast to coast the moment the bombs start falling or the moment the region should be threatened with invasion. Only the local police could and can do it. The backers of the plan were unexpectedly challenged by a few far-sighted fighting police chiefs, sheriffs, and perhaps some mayors. They finally fought for weeks over who should have the authority to give orders. Finally, the local government's advocates won. But that's been changed since 1957, of course. But no matter what the law says, every head of the federal civil defense agency has been a left-wing liberal internationalist, not knowing that they're doing the bad thing, fawning on the famous Jewish leaders. A lot of these people, as we know from my book reviews and research, are into witchcraft and Satanism and all this other stuff, Hollywood. Some crazy stuff, isn't it? And the legal counsel is a Jew who had publicly called for the powers of dictatorship over the people in the case of war. What, did they shut down a bunch of Walmarts and are getting everything geared up? They're obviously preparing for something. And they say September could be the month. The Pope is coming. Why is the Pope coming? To speak to the American people. New World Order, martial law, what? New World Wonder of Religion? Whatever it is, this has everything to do with everything. This document. And the machine has set up a chain of command down to the state, county, and city of political appointees of the liberal internationalists, leanings or else oblivious to the world revolution in which we are caught. Neither these lower appointees nor the American people in general realize that the American system and the federal constitution prohibit the federal government from coming into our state and our city to police us under any circumstances, even in war, unless and until asked to do so by the legislator, or if it is not in session, by the governor. And a lot of people are reporting foreign troops like Russians are training in the USA. And apparently Obama's made agreements with the Canadians, maybe the Mexicans, maybe the Chinese. So our Constitution prohibits the federal government from coming into our states. But I guess it doesn't prohibit by treaty having foreign troops come in who probably wouldn't have any qualms about shooting Americans versus having an American shoot an American. Just saying, these people have thought this stuff through. This mighty wall has been our defense. That would be the Constitution prohibiting the federal government from coming into the states. I think it's called posse comitatus. This mighty wall has been our defense for nearly 200 years. It has protected us from a government which otherwise would have become dictatorship a long time ago. Freedom can only be had only by leaving all police powers entirely to the local community. As I said, the only way to battle this is not to battle the state, but to go back to your homes and neighborhoods and form militias and communicate with each other and defend ourselves from any invasion. And I certainly do not think that is unpatriotic to think so. But I'm certainly, the New World Order folks have me on their blacklist, and other people, if they don't agree with me. And apparently they want the New World Order. I mean, the Pope and everybody's saying it openly now. Look, just Google it in your newspaper. 10 years ago, you would have giggled at somebody and thought they were a conspiracy nut. Now we know they were correct. All right, freedom can only be had by leaving all police powers entirely in the local community. But we have to man this wall of freedom, or it will be beaten down. So we have to stand up and have our own neighborhood militias and contacting our police departments and let them know that not to do what the internationalists, New World Order people want to do. One thing is kill off 85% of the population. Number two, anybody who's not supporting the Jews is to be eliminated. And anybody who doesn't believe in God, the Jewish God, is to be eliminated. So if you're a Christian and you believe in the Christian God, you're to be eliminated. You're not wanted, non gratis, in the New World Order. And if the people do not even know it is there, how are they going to beat down the wall? And if they do not even have an inkling of the meaning of local government and human freedom, how are we expected them to man the Great Wall of Freedom? So people, most people are not aware of the stuff I'm discussing in this video, that it's real out there. They're too busy watching The Simpsons. September, football season's coming. They must know that as soon as their planted agents sound the alarm over radio and television stations owned and dominated by the prominent Zionist, and remember, in the news, Obama has the ability to turn off all the cell phones, take control over all food supply, all transportation, all utilities. In martial law, everybody is not allowed to go anywhere without permission. You know that. Not leave your job, nothing. Once they issue martial law, if we all obey them, we're now all getting in line in parades going to our doom. That's their plan. It isn't a martial law to get everything reorganized back the way it was. It'll never be back the way it was if we let them do what they want to do. Radio, television stations owned and dominated by the prominent Zionists. We all know the Zionist machine. Banksters, Jewish folks own all the newspapers and media. Even in Hollywood, they have a book published called An Empire of Their Own. Book publishing companies, all this stuff. Come on, people have known this for a long time. The people will take orders from those voices, and the local police will be squelched. For 25 New Deal years, our people have been conditioned to take orders from Washington. Thus, no matter what the law says, the revolutionaries who advise and guide the liberal political appointees who are giving us all this New Age, gay agenda, adultery, and apparently, if you do any investigating at all, people are into Luciferian witchcraft, abducting, killing children, sex with children, sacrifices. It's a horrific state of affairs, what I've been reading and viewing on videos. If it's true, and apparently I can prove it, I've been showing it in my stuff, and I'm going to show it some more. We're dealing with something much bigger than what we know, what we think. They will have to use the local police. And speaking about dealing with things, I have my faith in God. I believe in Jesus and the Holy Spirit. We are all spiritual beings in biological bodies. Yes? So you can choose, we can choose who to have our faith in. And the mighty arm of God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit, can protect us and be involved. That's why they are fighting so hard to destroy Christianity. That's why they're fighting so hard to destroy the Muslim religion. Those people pray to and believe in God. The two biggest religions in the world that believe in one God are the Muslims and the Christians. And the Zionist people want both of those parties to wipe each other out. Make no bones about it. All over Middle East and Europe, they're using a lot of people called mercenaries. People who don't believe in God or anything, kill people for money. Assassins. They put hoods on, you see them. They say they behead people. So, and then in the United States, we have Sandy Hook and 911 and Boston bombing and Batman shootings and guys going into church and killing black people. We have serious government black op programs into mind control. And a lot of this occult into bodily possession, remote viewing and everything that I have studied and gone over. Again, I say, this is much bigger than what most people can fathom. But if you believe in God and you trust in God, and in the case of believing in Jesus in the Bible, in the Bible it says, look this up, I will be a shield to those who take refuge in me. And this is as old stuff as in the Bible. People who believed and had faith in God were protected from these monsters. That's all you can call these people, are demonic monsters who are planning this stuff right now in our world. Like the Georgia USA Guidestones say. I know that's going off in left field, but that seems to be the truth of it. There is, in my case, I believe in God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And what is God? God would be if I'm a spiritual being, and you're a spiritual being, God would be a spiritual being. So when you say God and you say Holy Spirit, you're saying the same thing. And God sent his son Jesus, and when he died, he was resurrected as a spirit and communicated with the 12 apostles. And in hospitals, when people die, they see a spirit leaving people. Children have out-of-body experiences, see the spirit world and come back. This is not old news. And by the way, all the occultists and New Agers believe and know this stuff also, but they have chosen the dark side, a lot of them. Especially the Satanists and the New World Order folk have chosen the Luciferic world when they communicate with the spirit. So what I'm saying is we need to choose the Christian, Jesus and God and Holy Spirit, as I'm a Christian, what the Muslims should do, I'm not going to advise them, but they have their religion, but they can abandon theirs and go to Christianity, but they can't allow themselves to be killed off or taken away from the truth. And being a decent, good person, they're not going to be allowed. The Jews, Zionists, not all Jews, want to destroy them, are destroying them. And they want to destroy Christians and are destroying them. All we got to do is look and watch the TV program. Miley Cyrus with the horns. Madonna with the horns. Katy Perry. Lady Gaga. Bieber. All the satanic symbols are there. I don't have to get exhausted here and tell you this. You can see it. You know it. Why are they playing this satanic game? Why is the Pope? Why did he send a video to all the other preachers and religions all over the USA saying there's no reason to be apart anymore, we need to all get back together? Have they all joined the Luciferic, Zionist, Jewish, satanic team and agreed to kill off 85% of the people and start a new master race, as Dr. Stephen Greer says in the Cyrus disclosure, UFO thing, that I went over this in one of my recent videos, the document you can look up on the internet, that they want to build a new civilization. There's something bigger, I keep saying. But there is a place, like it says in the Bible, I will be a shield to those who take refuge in me. So when we read about this stuff, I'm not trying to create fear here. Get your head in order and realize who to trust. And it's really drawn on my consciousness. You know, I went a long life. I was a party boy, drinking beer, out on the boat, having a good time, football, all that stuff. I didn't know about all this stuff. And I think about how I lived my life, and I could have lived it better. Really gets you to think deep when you start reading some of this stuff. With that said, let me continue. They will have to use the local police, but they will have to quickly replace any police chief or mayor who tries to exercise his constitutional duty to his people. They will shut down the schools, churches, libraries, courts, because the whole aim is to destroy local government and state government. The rock which so long has made communist Zionism takeover impossible. So they have to destroy our whole system to have this communist Zionism takeover possible. And the political figurehead arriving in each community, so they probably have somebody going to be in each city and every town, a political figurehead already to be in place, will get his orders as to whom to liquidate from the local secret agent of the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith. This Zionist machine, by its own bulletin, has agents in 2,000 American cities. So says Robert Williams, intelligence officer who wrote the book, The Ultimate World Order. All Americans who recognize the revolution for what it is and who dare to protest... Water. Get a dry mouth, I can't talk. Who dare to protest the destruction of local government and the imposition of federal police dictatorship, those unrighteous citizens will just disappear in the smoke and hysteria. How can we defend ourselves? The only defense you and I will have is to educate our neighbors now, and while we have a chance to reach them with the facts. Under such a situation, it may be worth a great deal in the struggle to regain freedom for the citizenry to realize that the defenders of the constitutional government will be legally correct. So if we try to defend the constitutional government, we are legally correct, while the oppression government, which upserts the rights of local and state government, will be in the position of the revolutionary. So they're going to be doing an illegal activity. Under such circumstances, the Constitution seems clearly to authorize the people to make war on the usurpers. Article 2 of the amendment says, a well-regulated militia, see what I said? being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now you know why they want to take your arms. Article 1 of the, Section 1 of the Article 14 of the amendment says, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Other articles also specifically provide protection for citizens who defend their constitutional government. The reader who is unaware of the viciousness and the determination of the revolutionaries may refuse to believe that any group in powerful position in our country has any such designs. But they have already had 12 or more dry runs in many American cities using the equally revolutionary invention. And I believe all those things like Ferguson and Baltimore, Florida, cop killing a black guy, and then all these school shootings, I think they are doing dry runs. And I was in a jazz club last Wednesday night, I mentioned in a couple other videos. And 3 times within an hour or so, Amber Alerts came on the phone of everybody in the bar. Not at the same time, and different vehicle and tag number. We all thought it was kind of suspicious, and I think that they're just testing the equipment. City blackouts have been happening, electricity, cell phone blackouts have been happening across the country in cities. If you go on the internet and check it out. Are they doing dry runs? They've been buying equipment, they've been building FEMA camps, they built underground facilities, they're stocking them up with food. They're getting ready for something. The Georgia USA Guidestones say what they want to do. H.G. Williams in 1923 said what they were going to do. Albert Pike in 1880 said what they were going to do. Higgins in the Jewish Utopia and this stuff discovered in 1932 said this stuff. Robert Williams in 1957 published this book, and many more that I've gone over. So they have already had 12 or more dry runs back then in American cities using equally revolutionary invention, the military government forces, which are always headed by leftist revolutionaries or liberal dupes. And on this video, I say it here and now, I hope a lot of our military leaders and police chiefs and senators and representatives and people in power will get their head on straight and see what's going on. They can be great leaders and help us through this if this happens. I'm having some faith that they all haven't gone all over to the dark side. Or liberal dupes. That's what if they do go to the dark side and they want to go with this revolution. And as it says in this document, this book, these people, after the revolution is done, will be eliminated also. How can you trust a traitor? They can't. The people who want the new utopia, all these people who allow themselves to be dupes and kill off a lot of the humanity, they won't be trusted. They're traitors to their own kind. Who's to say they won't be traitors again? They have to be eliminated. In 1951, these units seized 9 cities in California. 1951. Seized the mayor and police chiefs, posted proclamations of absolute dictatorship over the populace. In the name of the United Nations Forces Military Government in 1951. And from what we've all seen throughout history now, Kennedy killing and everything else, these people are not about to let up. All right. So that was page 65. What did I do? Did I lose a page here? All right, you ready for some more? Not too much more to go. However, it seems that the plan now is to use the federal civil defense agencies instead of the military government. And as we see now, since 1957, when Robert Williams wrote this book, they've come a long ways with all the spying equipment, and we all know that. Experimenting with Ebola drugs. There was one recent thing about a plague going on, increasing right now. They got that Australian antigen, and they want to forcefully Get everybody to stand in line and take a vaccine. Even an old guy like me. What do they want to stick in me? Why make it mandatory, a law? You can be arrested or thrown in jail, killed or whatever. If you don't take it, maybe. What do they want to stick in us? Is it a voluntary death sentence they want to do? Just talking out loud here, thinking, why? Why are they sky spraying us? Why are they building those microwave transmitters all over the world in strategic locations? Alaska, Maine, Texas, like a big triangle all around the world. Holland, China, Japan. What are they going to do? Turn these microwave transmitters on and wipe out cities? Will they have alerted all the good guys, they're good guys, they're actually the evil guys, to get out of the city when they turn it on? Turn everybody into crispy critters? Insane, you think? So complete are the plans for seizure of power that they were leaked to the public via a magazine in 1955. In July 1, 1955, issue of the U.S. News and World Report reported the plan that would annihilate the Constitution of the United States and possibly end for all time the individual freedom we have known. It's like a horror movie I'm reading here. A military dictatorship, swift and complete, Jade Helm is in place right now, we all know, will take hold at the very moment of any big atomic attack on American cities. And now if you update this in EMP pulse, a fabricated asteroid, they could do it with HARP or something, or even a nuclear explosion, and say it was an asteroid. We don't know. They got these big lasers now, cannon lasers. This is the word from top official sources in Washington following Operation Alert, the civil defense exercise that just ended. The old idea of standby controls, which has been worrying some businessmen, no longer has any place in official planning. Instead, the president will simply take control. This is what they're saying. The president will take control, and there won't be another election in 2016. I was watching a YouTube video saying that today. Of business, banks, goods, prices, wages, just about everything. If you've been paying attention to the news and the media, they've passed legislation just to do these things. And worry about legal authority later. Martial law will be clamped on the entire country. This will be the president's first official act after bombs start falling. With that act, the president will assume almost unlimited war powers. Dictatorship from Washington, or from the president's nearby hideaway, which will be backed by military forces. Businesses will be blanketed by regulations already written, ready for issue. Workers will be ordered not to strike, change jobs without permission. Censorship will be imposed at once. Factories will be told what to produce. Farmers may find their livestock, land, and crops commandeered for military use. They're going to eat, but the rest of the people won't eat. In bombed-out areas, martial law will bring strict discipline. Think of the movie Hunger Games. Enforced at gunpoint or by whatever armed forces are available. The Federal Civil Defense Act will come into full effect, empowering authorities to requisition property, including private homes and automobiles. In these areas, people will be subject to draft for whatever labor is needed. Individual rights and privileges will disappear for the time being. They're never going to be reinstated once this happens. Habeas corpus, which protects a citizen against imprisonment without due process of law, will be suspended. So will freedom of speech. You won't be able to say what I'm saying now. Under national martial law, so the thinking goes, there will be no time for haggling over federal authority, no time for people or businesses to balk at doing what they are told. Once the dust begins to clear, Congress will be asked to ratify the emergency measures ordered by the President. Thus, the end of the golden age of human freedom, the wiping out of the glorious republic, within its written limitations on government and its constitutional guarantees against high-handed, arrogant officialdom. And what a perfect blueprint for conquest by the gifted Zionist planners who inspired this federal civil defense trap whose fingerprints are all over it. Julius Caesar, the internationalist, and I might mention many of the popes throughout history, and kings and queens, this is common knowledge, who have always been underling of the Jewish financial and political leaders. You did know that the Jewish financiers throughout history have been financing kings and queens in the Vatican, wars and all that stuff. The same people, as I keep saying. And political leaders have always heavily handed, indebted to them but for personal loans. I just said that. Thus destroying the great Roman Republic after centuries of racial homogenization that had reduced the people to a state of degeneracy. See, they are talking about people being degeneracy now, basically a inferior DNA. We're not equal to these people who want to take over. They have a higher DNA, these Zionist, elitist Jewish folks. So they say. And as Stephen Greer, in serious disclosure, says they want to build a new civilization on planet Earth. We're still talking about milestones on the road to the Zionist Utopia. We have not yet reached the milestone of A-Day, Armageddon, with its suppression of freedom inside our country. But we have reached a milestone on the road to racial and spiritual degeneracy. Otherwise, no president would permit a clique to draw up a blueprint for crowning him a Caesar. No president would dare think in such terms. Well, George Bush said himself, Jr., that it'd be a lot easier if he was king. He wouldn't have to get permission to do anything. So they are thinking like that. And Obama doesn't seem to be getting in the way of what they're telling him to do. Otherwise, no president would allow it. Let's see what it says here. If we had not reached a milestone down the road towards the takeover, Congress and the people would blast out of office any president who dared to put his stamp of approval on a blueprint to wipe out the republic and end, perhaps for all time, human freedom. Our people, and even our senators and representatives, seem no longer to understand that the Constitution never gives Congress or the President any special powers over the states and the peoples, regardless of the emergency. Did you hear what I said? Our people, and even the senators and representatives, seem no longer to understand that the Constitution never gives Congress or the President any special powers over the states and the people, regardless of the emergency. But with all these puppets that these Zionist Jewish folks, Illuminati, Freemasons, Jesuits, and the gang, all the bad Christians who are joined the devil-worshipping group, Satanists, New Agers, and not everybody on the lower levels knows what's involved in all of this, of course. Many of the Jewish people throughout the United States are not aware of this. They may be aware of something, and I would hope and pray that they would start stepping up and stopping this also. Because accordingly, these Zionist Jewish folks don't want them around either if they will not worship their God, which apparently a lot of Orthodox or God-fearing, believing, good Jews, Shepherdetics, and Ashkenazis, who are not part of this Zionism, New World Order, New Age, destroying the entire civilization for them people, they should step up and start helping and speaking up and be part of the solution. Become heroes. We all need to step up and become heroes. This is my opinion. This stuff seems serious. I hope I'm wrong. That I read these books and do these videos, and the books, Chex Mars, Henry McCall, PhD, Jewish author in Canada, Tarpley, talks about 911, Webster Tarpley, Henry Ford, the automaker. So much I've gone over. Rabbi Marvin Antelman, press releases in the newspapers, videos, and the activities of the government itself. Patriot Act, the economy being destroyed, fracking destroying water supplies. I could go on and on and on. I think I can see clearly. This all seems to be all too real. And so many people are in the twilight zone and don't know anything's going on. Even martial law does not give the president the right to suspend courts and the process of justice, or the right to invade a state or take over police powers, except by request of the state legislator or the governor. Congress never had the right to grant the president any special wartime or other emergency powers. This innovation of our lifetime is simply an assertion of outright violation of the Constitution. The frightening aspect of it is that the people permitted it with little protest during the Second World War and 9/11. We all know it was an inside job. We all can see the sky spraying, but nobody's saying anything. They keep getting away with murder. So the people are probably going to be deserving what they get if they don't step up to the plate. The frightening aspect of it is the people permitted it with little protest during the Second World War, and now raise hardly a voice against the civil defense blueprint for dictatorship. Jade Helm? The people do not seem to realize that no such power is necessary or even advantageous, that the people, given leadership and information, will always respond, and under local government and leadership will accomplish more than under compulsion or federal planning. We already know what the federal government is planning. There's FEMA camps, guillotines, and hollow point bullets. Another milestone revealed in the Jewish Utopia, which gives us our general clue as to the Zionist timetable. The advent of a new era will thus be preceded by the travail of the Masonic time. Remember the Masonic lodges, Freemasonic and Illuminati, everything? Namely, great distress, foreign invasion, confusion, and moral decline. According to another tradition, the 3 generations preceding the Masonic period will possess abundance of silver and gold and other luxuries. Hence, the people will lead an immoral and ungodly life. Has our level of prosperity and easy living now so completely killed any public conscience? The courage to resist tyranny and subversion, that the time is ripe? Before the First World War, the farmers and small-town neighbors would have taken clubs and cleaned out the stinking mess in Washington, and would have made short work of the Communist and Zionist and the Anti-Defamation League and the NAACP, etc. I remember those men and their courage in the early part of this century. We are now a generation of cowards and money grabbers. Well, there you have it. I think I'll read a little bit from the Protocols of Zion and end this video. All right, continuing on. The Protocols of Zion. Protocol number 15. You know, this series is called Freemasonry and Satanism. And as I've said before, I could have called it Freemasonry, Illuminati, Zionism, Satanism, occultic, witchcraft, Jesuits, Mystery School of Babylon, the occult. I guess the best word that describes all of that is witchcraft. And what's really weird is a lot of people just can't sink their head around that. They can watch the Hollywood stars doing the eye thing, the devil thing, the triangle thing, the 3-6 thing, and Hunger Games movies, Divergent, and all this stuff, trying to eliminate Christianity. But they can't get away from materialism. They just don't want to believe anything that's out there. A lot of people would, if you accuse them or something, or, warn them not to do something, they always say, I would never do that. But what about the people who are doing that? What's their moral character? What's their makeup? What will they not do for what they want? Like Aleister Crowley in the Book of the Law, where the law is, do as thou wilt. That means anything. If you want something somebody else has, conspire to kill them. Hire a hitman. Maybe you want some guy's wife who lives next door. Hire a hitman. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, what will some people do to get what they want? People in politics, governments, countries, Israel. And so the Protocols of Zion tells us the plan of what they will do, what they are doing to get what they want. And they're into the cabal. Everybody knows this. They've been into magic, occult. King Solomon's supposed to have had a magic ring with the six-pointed star that he could call forth demons. That's how he got his power. This is throughout history. Jesus Christ, 12 times, has cast out demons of people. He would walk into a village and some man was acting insane, and he was kind of an outcast of the village. And the man insane would look up and see Jesus, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And Jesus would say, "Come out of him." And the spiritual entity would leave the man, and he would become sort of normal again. And the villages would see all this and started telling everybody. But see, some people cannot wrap their heads around demonic possession. People who intentionally, to gain points or favor or curry from the devil or the demons, practice witchcraft and satanic ritual ceremonies, like sacrificing people. The bottom line is, the satanic ritual ceremonies are the opposite of the 10 Commandments. And from what I've been studying, they're obligated to break a commandment every day. That's their goal. A lot of us would want to try to be a good person every day and not break a commandment. I know I'm wasting my time sometimes trying to explain this because some people just can't get it. But they see it on TV. Devil signs. Even the president's daughter, the Pope, they're all doing it. Bill Clinton. All right. So why don't I read the protocol number 15 and let you decide what evil is or evil is not. When we at last definitely come into our kingdom by aid of coups d'état, prepared everywhere for one and the same day, after definitely acknowledged, and not a little time will pass before that comes about, perhaps even a whole century, we shall make it our task to see that against us such things as plots shall no longer exist. So they're plotting all of our demise, and when they do wind up with the coup d'etat, the sneak surprise, maybe it's an EMP pulse, take out the electricity in the United States, maybe at the same time in Europe, Ebola plagues or something, nuclear attack or something. But they want to make sure that they plan it so that they can stop any future plots to retaliate. With this purpose we shall slay without mercy. They shall kill without mercy all who take arms in hand, like Waco, Randy Weaver, Port Arthur, Oklahoma. This is in italics, somebody else added this. To oppose our kingdom to oppose our coming into our kingdom. Every kind of new institution of anything like a secret society will also be punished with death. So they control all the Freemasonic lodges and all the other secret societies on almost every corner in all the cities and towns across the United States and the world. But when they come into their power, people who try to have a secret society will be punished with death, yet they have them now. That's one of the tools of their takeover. The Freemasonic Lodge down the road from your house, maybe. Those of them which are now in existence are known to us, serve us, and have served us. See, they're saying it right here. They control those Freemasonic lodges. We shall disband and send into exile to continents far removed from Europe. In this way we shall proceed with those goyim Masons, Freemasons, who know too much. Oh my God. Don't these Freemasons know this? Illuminati, Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, Ford Foundation, Bohemian Group, Bilderberger groups, all the organizations that they're using to destroy the world, they will destroy them after they take over. That's why I say, you know, a lot of these police departments, chiefs, senators, representatives, politicians, banksters that are involved right now, don't they know after these people take over that they will be the first to be destroyed after the people are destroyed? Do they really think they're going to let those people hang around and live good lives and propagate and grow families and personal fortunes after they were a traitor to their own people? They'll be done away with quickly, as it says right here. Such of these as we may for some reason spare their lives will be kept in constant fear of exile. We shall promulgate a law making all former members of secret societies liable to exile from Europe as a center of rule. Another thing I noticed too is, you know, a lot of people think of only their own hometown or their own country. But what's going on here in the United States is happening in Europe too. Russia, maybe, the citizens there are probably not aware. Probably a lot of citizens in Israel itself, as we have already researched, are opposed to this and will probably be neutralized, killed, if they reject the New World Order, slavery, to the masters. Resolutions of our government will be final, without appeal. In Goy societies in which we have planted and deeply rooted discord and Protestant, the only possible way to restoring order is to employ merciless measures that prove the direct force of authority. No regard must be paid to the victims who fall. They suffer for the well-being of the future. So you're going to suffer, if you're still alive, for the well-being of the future. The attainment of that well-being, even at the expense of sacrifices, is the duty of any kind of government that acknowledges as justification for its existence not only its privileges but its obligations. The principal guarantee of stability of rule is to confirm the aura of power. This aura is attained only by such majestic inflexibility of might as shall carry on its face that emblems the inviolability of mystical causes. Mystical causes, isn't that like magic? From the choice of God. Oh, they're talking about God here, but not the God that we Christians have. Such was, until recent times, the Russian aristocracy. The one and only serious foe we had in the world, without counting the papacy. So the biggest foe they had was Russia, and they took over Russia in 1917, killed off the Tsar and his family, and maybe 100,000 goyim, good people, non-Jews. I know they destroyed, from my reading, they destroyed all the Christian churches, but not the Jewish temples. Bear in mind the example when Italy, drenched in blood, never touched a hair on the head of Sulla, who had poured forth that blood. So you get the leader in Italy, Sulla, who I guess had many people killed, and the citizens never touched a hair on his head. Sulla enjoyed the apostasy for his might in him, but his intrepid return to Italy ringed him around with invulnerability. The people do not lay a finger on him who hypnotizes them by his daring and strength of mind. So we need to remember that. We cannot be weak patsies. If some enemy attacks us, we have to come back with double the strength. Secret societies, or at least, and I believe a very powerful tool, is to have faith in God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, whatever your religion is, because they're relying on the Lucifer demonic magic, and they're trying to destroy Christianity because they know what prayer can do. They know what faith can do. Faith can move mountains, has been said, right? The hand of God is stronger than all these people. But if they've got everybody not believing in God, then they've also secured their own success by getting the people not to understand who the true power of force is. The human defender, God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, as a Christian. Besides your own personal local militias and army and military to fight back, but they're assuming all the people will be cowards and sheep and not fight back. They're even telling us here, then you'll suffer for quite a while if you're still alive. I realize this is a lot to take in, but I think we should seriously consider it, research it. I can present it and make this video, but there's nothing better than other people to go do their own research. I'm coming up with quite a diversity in types of books and material, and photos, and everything, documents. And moving on, number 4. Meantime, however, until we come into our kingdom, we shall act in the contrary way. We shall create and multiply Freemasonic lodges in all the countries of the world. Remember, this document was created over 100 years ago. So you got to see what they said then and what's now. And we went over those New Age Freemasonic magazines, and they have created Freemasonic lodges all over the world. Remember, this series is Freemasonry and Satanism, and Kabbalah, occultism, magic is something many of the Jewish people are into. Most people know that. The symbolism of Hollywood, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, stuff we see on TV, all the stuff I've been going over. It's real, and we need to get it. Got it? So Freemasonic lodges in all the countries of the world, absorb them into them all who may become or who are prominent in public activity. For these lodges we shall find our principal intelligence office and means of influence. So everybody tells me, oh, my uncle was a Freemason. There's nothing going on here. It's not what it says in the Protocols of Zion. The battle plan for the Zionist Jewish folks and others, Illuminati and other people who are involved in Luciferic, satanic, religious, and occult, to take over the world and enslave everybody else who they do not kill. All these lodges we shall bring under one central administration, that would be the Illuminati, known to us alone, and to all others absolutely unknown, which will be composed of our learned elders. The lodges will have their representatives who will serve to screen the above-mentioned administration of Masonry, and from whom will issue the watchword and program. Their composition will be made up of all strata of society. Among the members of these lodges will be almost all of the agents of international and national police, since their service is for us irreplaceable in the respect that the police is in a position not only to use its own particular measures with the insubordinate, but also to screen our activities and provide pretext for discontents, e.t., etc. So if you oppose being a slave, you're probably going to be deemed a discontent, an insubordinate, if you don't do what you're told. The class of people, number 5, who most willingly enter into secret societies are those who live by their wits, careerists, and in general people mostly light-minded, with whom we shall have no difficulty in dealing and in using to wind up the mechanism of the machine devised by us. I'm not reading everything here, just my highlighted sentences. Okay, but if there should arise in its midst a plot, then at the head of that plot will be no other than one of our most trusted servants. So if there's any plots that arise, they will probably have organized it to control the plots, to fool you, to fool me, to fool us. It is natural that we and no other should lead Masonic activities, for we know whither we are leading. We know whither we are leading. We know the final goal of every form of activity, whereas the goyim, people who are not Jews, also means cattle, have knowledge of nothing, not even of the immediate effect of action. You're not going to believe this. I guess I better show you. Some of this stuff is so outrageous. Gentiles are stupid. Non-Jews. That's what that means. Gentiles are stupid. So they're saying non-Jews are stupid. Remember, they have all their power and wealth and might by devious means, not honest means. People died. People were bribed. Countries, leaders, President Wilson, Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, and people who, like Kennedy, who didn't play along, were assassinated. I think it was 7 days before he was assassinated, he said he was going to expose the plot of the secret societies against the world. So Kennedy was talking about this stuff I'm reading, and 7 days later he was assassinated. The goyim enter the lodges out of curiosity, or in the hope that by their means to get a nibble at the public pie, and some of them in order to obtain a hearing before the public for their impractical and groundless fantasies. They thirst for the emotion of success and applause, of which we are remarkably generous. So they know how to please people with success and applause. Like all those movie stars who are doing all this satanic rituals, and some of them discover what they're into and escape and go tell all on talk shows or videos or whatever. And a lot of them who do not play along wind up dead, movie stars and famous people. And the reason why we give them this success is to make use of the high conceit of themselves to which it gives birth. You cannot imagine to what extent the wisest of the goyim can be brought to a state of unconscious naivety in the presence of this condition of high conceit of themselves. And I've been offered bribes before, and deals and money in my business, but I was wise enough to say no. I could have gotten free $5,000, $10,000, much more money, if I had just looked the other way on certain deals and things, as I was told. But I said no. Wonder what most people would say. But so much as ours disregard success, but so much as ours disregard success, if only they can carry through their plans, by so much the Goyim are willing to sacrifice any plans only to have success. So they're saying the stupid Goyim, non-Jews, would sell out their country and their people for success. This psychology of theirs, material facilities, for us the task of setting them in the required direction. These tigers in appearance have the souls of sheep, and the wind blows freely through their heads. We have set them on the hobby horse of an idea about the absorption of the individual by this symbolic unit of the collectivism. How many people are buying this New Age collectivism, socialism right now, not knowing they're walking into their own destruction, according to the Protocols of Zion and many other books and materials that I have gone over in my hundreds of hours of videos prior to this one. They have never yet, and they never will, have a sense to reflect on this hobby horse is a manifest violation of the most important law of nature. Moving on, number 7. If we have been able to bring them to such a pitch of stupid blindness, is it not a proof, and an amazing clear proof, of the degree in which the mind of the Goyim is undeveloped in comparison with our mind? This it is mainly which guarantees our success. And I might remind the viewers of this video, in the early 1910, 1920, 1930, the Rothschilds forcefully took over the medical establishment and forced municipal and town supplies of water to put fluoride in the water, which per a Harvard study lowers the IQ. So they knew they were making people lethargic and lower IQ capacity to think and resolve problems and see things. They're drugging the people, and it's much worse since then. Now it's called attention deficit disorder in school. If a young boy or girl is too inquisitive and questions anything, they drug them. And see, these people are saying they're smarter, and they're not drugging themselves, of course. Okay, another one here you're just not going to believe, so I guess I should show it to you, the title. Gentiles are cattle. How do you treat cows, horses, sheep, pigs, goats, cattle? You treat them like animals. Gentiles are cattle. So they want it, and they've even said it. HBOL said it. Most human beings are like animals, which can't be trusted. You can't trust a dog, you have to keep it on a leash. Cattle, animals. And how far-seeing were our learned elders in ancient times when they said that to attain a serious end, it behooves not to stop at any means or to count the victims. So if you want to go to have a serious end, if you want to gain somebody's factory, or all the farmlands in the Midwest, or big corporations, or money, all the stocks, controlling the stock market and all that, the currencies, everything, oil. And how far-seeing were our learned elders in ancient times when they said that to attain a serious end, it behooves us not to stop at any means or to count the victims, sacrificed for the sake of that end. So they're saying here, they will do anything to get what they want. And I use this analogy a lot. Let's say they move into a particular town in the state of Maine. A textile company making cloth, maybe a leather factory. And they want to go up to the owner and they say, sell us this leather factory for $100,000. And the guy says, no, I don't want to sell my leather factory in this little town employing everybody. And 2 weeks later, maybe the guy winds up in a car wreck and dead. and his estate gets sold off pennies on the dollars. These people will stop at any means. Nothing is going to stop them. I'm going to spit it out correctly how to say it. Nothing will stop them from getting what they want. Murder, anything. Deception, discrediting, framing somebody for murder or something else. Hooking somebody up with a prostitute and then exposing them. Destroying somebody. Politicians, they do it. I think it was the governor of New York recently, what was his name, who got caught with the prostitute in the limousine. When only weeks earlier he had written a press release exposing some irregularities in the government processing of home loans to people, not obeying the laws and telling all the governors throughout the United States to back down and allow these home loans to be made to anybody and to disregard established laws. And he wrote a big essay. And a week later he gets busted with a prostitute in his limousine, which apparently was, maybe it was something he was into, but they set out to expose him and take him down. They'll stop at nothing. So you better have a pretty clean house if you're going to step up to the plate against these people. And I'm just a man. They could probably destroy me pretty easy. One guy I know, Fritz Springmeier, was accused of robbing a bank. He was a minister. Spent time in jail. He's out now. He wrote Bloodlines of the Illuminati. How did they frame him for robbing a bank? How do they get all those young men there that look like they're hypnotized or on some kind of drugs or possessed to do the Batman shooting, Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, 911, all those people with box cutters, they say. The guy who goes into a church and shoots black people. Then look up MK Ultra if you don't believe this stuff is real. Or Project Montauk, Project Paperclip. They got these black ops going on now that they can do mind control. They brag about it. They can put a chip in somebody, program their head what to think. MK Ultra, Project Montauk. There's a lot of this going on. They have that control now. We have not counted the victims of the seed of the Goy cattle, though we have sacrificed many of our own. The comparatively small number of the victims from the number of ours have preserved our nationality from destruction. Death is the inevitable end for all. It is better to bring that end nearer to those who hinder our affairs than to ourselves. So they said it's better to kill people who get in the way of their plans. Expose the details. We execute Masons in such wise that none save the Brotherhood can ever have suspicion of it. Not even the victims themselves of our death sentence. They all die when required, as if from a normal kind of illness. See? How many people have been murdered conveniently of a heart attack that they wanted to get rid of? See, I trust in God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, and try to imagine myself in God's hand, knowing in the Bible it says, I shall be a shield to those who seek refuge in me. Look that up. Some paraphrasing there. And there's probably, that's the only thing you can really defend yourself against demonic activity, voodoo, magic, witchcraft. They know things, and I've gone over it in my books, and I will go over it some more in details in things like voodoo and magic and what they can do, remote viewing, leaving the body, possession, satanic rituals. Alright, so they can cause somebody to die pretty easily. They have the knowledge. Get it? Got it? Knowing this, even the Brotherhood in its turn dare not protest. By such methods we have plucked out of the midst of Masonry the very root of protest against our disposition. While preaching liberalism to the goy, and they are preaching that all throughout the Democrats and citizens out there, it's all programmed. We at the same time keep our own people and our agents in a state of unquestioning submission. Under our influence, the execution of the laws of the goyim has been reduced to a minimum. In the most important and fundamental affairs and questions, judges decide as we dictate to them. Just like those judges in the Supreme Court who said it was illegal for any state to ban gay marriage. Judges decide as we dictate to them, right here in the Protocols of Zion. Any questions? See matters in the light wherewith we unfold them for the administration of the goyim. Remember, Prime Minister Sharon of Israel said in a heated argument in his Congress, "Don't worry about the USA, we control the USA." So they control our judges. Of course, through persons who are tools, though we do not appear to have anything in common with them. The purely brute mind of the goyim is incapable of use for an analysis and observation. Ha! Maybe I'm not a goyim. I don't want to be one of these Jewish Zionist people. So I guess I am what they call a goyim. In this difference in capacity for thought between the goyim and ourselves may be clearly discerned the seal of our position as the chosen people, and of our higher quality for humanness. Whatever I see what they're doing is inhuman in my opinion. Their eyes are open, but they see nothing before them and do not invent, unless perhaps material things. So they're saying right here, they invent non-material things. They're into witchcraft and spiritualism. From this it is plain that nature herself has destined us to guide and rule the world. It is plain that nature herself has destined us to guide and rule the world. Oh, here we got another one you got to look at to believe. If I said it, you probably wouldn't believe me. We demand submission. When comes the time of our overt rule, the main feature which will run through them is submission to orders, and this principle will be carried out in grandiose height. Abuses of power subordinate to this last instance will be so mercilessly punished that none will be found anxious to try experiments with their own powers. So I guess if you try to study their magic that they have, they will mercilessly punish. And that magic that we have as Christians is praying to God, talking to God, faith and belief. And that scares them. We shall follow up jealously every action of the administration on which depends the smooth running of the machinery of the state. For slackness in this produces slackness everywhere. Not a single case of illegal or abuse of power will be left without exemplary punishment. I have trouble saying some words. I've had that problem all my life, yet I still read on. Concealment of guilt, connivance between those in the service of the administration. All this kind of evil will disappear after the very first examples of severe punishment. The aurora of our power demands suitable, that is, cruel punishments for the slightest infractions. Oh my God, huh? The sufferer, through his punishment, may exceed his fault. So they can punish you greater than your fault. Our judges will know that whenever they feel disposed to plume themselves on foolish clemency, so if a judge wants to let you go and give you clemency, listen to what happens to the judges. They are violating the law of justice, which is instituted for the exemplary edification of men by penalties for lapses, and not for a display of the spiritual qualities of the judges. Such qualities it is proper to show in private life, but not in the public square, which is the educational basis of human life. Our legal staff will not serve beyond the age of 55. This will give us the possibility, by the measure of securing elasticity in the changing of staff, which will thus the more easily bend under our pressure. He who wishes to keep his place will have to give blind obedience to deserve it. In general, our judges will be elected by us from among those who thoroughly understand that the part they have to play is to punish and apply laws, and not to dream about the manifestations of liberalism at the expense of the educational scheme of the state, as the goyim in these days imagine it to be. This method of shuffling the staff will serve also to explode any collective solidarity. All right, we'll bind all to the interest of the government upon which their faith will depend. The young generation of judges will be trained in certain views regarding the inadmissibility of any abuses that might disturb the established order of our subjects among themselves. Oh my. I'm glad I was born a long time ago and I don't have to live through this in the future. In these days, the judges of the goyim create indulgences of every kind of crimes, not having a just understanding of their office. Yeah, these days, the judges do create indulgences for themselves. What, Nancy Pelosi came into office and apparently she had $1 million when she was elected. And now she has $100 million. So I have been told or saw on a video. Is that true? So getting elected to office can be very lucrative if you're an unsavory character. And like Nancy Pelosi said, you can read what's in the health care bill after we pass it. And President Obama on the Pacific Trade Agreement says, you can read what's in the Pacific Trade Agreement after we pass it. And I think also on that new Internet Fairness Bill, what's that called? They won't let anybody read what's in that bill. What's in there? It's supposed to be good for us, but I don't think so. As a brute beast lets out its young in search of prey, so do the goyim give to them for what purpose such place was created. So when we cattle let these people become judges and senators and representatives and all that stuff that are bought and paid for, we're putting in power people who are trying to destroy us and make themselves richer. They don't work for us. They haven't for a long time. Many of them, most of them, in my opinion. And this is still the United States of America, where we do have a First Amendment of free speech. We can read a book and have free thoughts. But that may be coming to a close very soon, as these things in this document says. We shall root out liberalism from all the important strategic posts of our government, in which depends the training of subordinates for our state structure. Such posts will fall exclusively to those who have been trained by us for administrative rule. And again, I got another one that's so crazy, I have to show it to you. We shall be cruel. 18. Our absolutism with all things be logically consecutive. All discontents of every kind will be destroyed to the roots. We shall abolish the right of appeal. We must not allow the conception among the people of a thought that there could be such a thing as a decision that is not right of judges set up by us. So it doesn't matter what you or I think. What they tell us to think is what we should think. And if you're not agreeing, you're going to be a discontent. Off with his head. He's a discontent, an anti-government belligerent, an insurgent, or maybe a terrorist if you don't want to surrender your gun. Just saying. Our government will have the appearance of a patriarchal, paternal guardianship on the part of our ruler. So they want to appear like you're a daddy figure, a guardian. They will then be so thoroughly imbued with the thought that it is impossible for them to dispense with this wardenship and guidance if they wish to live in peace and quiet. That they will acknowledge the autocracy of our rulers with a devotion bordering on apostasy. So I guess they want the people to be so thankful for peace and quiet after some anarchy and chaos that they are creating now. And they'll make us beg for peace and quiet. They're going to create so much chaos and anarchy. What are they going to do? An EMP pulse, take out the electricity, no water, no food, no sewer, no heat in the wintertime? Who knows? And people will be rioting and raping and pillaging and such insanity that the people will accept devotion bordering on apostasy. Worship these people like God for bringing the neighborhood a pallet of food. How cheaply can we, USA people and world people, be bought? Our souls. The mark of the beast. You have to stand in line and get a chip or a mark on your forehead and your hand. And this is in the Bible. And if you do take the mark when you die, and you shall surely die, we all die, you will not go to God's kingdom. You go to the other place, where they don't have air conditioning, or cool glasses of iced tea. Molten lava pits? I don't know what hell is like. But I know I don't want to go there, even with that photo I showed in a previous video, where that transgendered or gay guy was holding up in a gay pride parade that says, "I'll bet hell is fabulous." I showed you that. How brainwashed have the people allowed themselves to be? They will be rejoiced that we have regulated everything in their lives, as is done by wise parents who desire to train children in the cause of duty and submission. Oh my. Almost done. All right. Humanity towards that order which is defined by nature, namely submission. Everything in the world is in a state of submission, if not to man, then to circumstances. We are obliged without hesitation to sacrifice individuals who commit a breach of established order. For in the exemplary punishment of evil lies a great educational problem. When the king of Israel sets up his sacred head of the crown, when the king of Israel sets upon his sacred head the crown offered him by Europe, he will become patriot of the world. So they got this king of Israel that's going to be offered the crown by Europe. It is the indispensable victims offered by him in consequence of their suitability. Indispensable victims offered by him in consequence of their suitability will never reach the number of victims offered in the course of centuries by the mania of magnificence and the emanation between the Goy governments. So when they crown this king of Israel. I'm just wondering, will they have a whole lot of people lined up to be sacrificed to their evil god as a celebration? Crazy, crazy, crazy. In the course of centuries, by the mania of magnificence, the emulation between the Goy governments, our king will be in constant communion with the peoples, making to them from the tribune's speeches, which fame will in that same hour distribute over all the world. Protocol number 15. I've been going over some interesting books and material lately, and hopefully I'm improving on my ability to speak a little clearer, and something that you can follow along and get it. That's what I try to do. It's important. I feel that it's a very concerning subject we are talking about, the very future of the human race. The non-goyim, non-cattle, the Jewish people, and not all of them, of course, but the Zionist ones, who may not be Jewish at all, but from Eastern Europe, the anti-Nazis, however you say it, Akanazis, Jewish people, which in Revelation, the last book of the Bible, says, Jews who call themselves Jews, but are not. And they apparently are into the occult and Satanism and Luciferism, communicating with the demonic beings and masters from the other side, which, by the way, Albert Pike, author of Morals and Dogma, that big, thick Bible of the Freemasons, he said he got his material from a master, from an interdimensional being. Helena Blavatsky, Secret Doctrine, big, thick book like the Bible for the Theosophist societies, the New Age. Got her information from some secret masters and beings from the other side, in meditative state, or apparitions that appeared in front of her. Nikolai Tesla said apparitions and visions appeared in front of him. Edgar Cayce did all kinds of readings and helped people with cures and told them about their past lives. Alice Bailey. All these books I've been showing you. The government into remote viewing. What about the UFOs and aliens, and the UFO greys are seemingly looking like the demonic being that Aleister Crowley was communicating with, Ayahuasca. Look like a gray alien. So are these aliens and these crop circles, which have been videoed with a light being flying over the ground as the crop circles appear, are these demonic interdimensional beings? CERN, the collider with Shiva out front with the many arms. In the cartoons, some kids now have Shiva dances. And Time magazine had Obama on the cover with several arms in a Shiva dance. Football halftime shows and other Grammy things are doing these Shiva dances. And Kali, they put Kali on the Empire State Building with the big projectors. The goat, which is the representative of the devil god, was on the Hoover Dam. The all-seeing eye Horus is on the US dollar. Is it starting to come clearer together? We're dealing with something much greater than what we understand. And one of the defensible positions we can take is with God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit. If you're Christian, if you're Muslim and you grew up with that religion, I'm not sure how that works out, but I'm sure that the good people know what they're supposed to do and to reject evil in any religion. I did take a course in college called Comparative Religions, and most of the religions throughout the world have pretty similar commandments. It's just my opinion. Rick Miracle reporting.